Part number one on our 16-night cruise on Silver Shadow found us in Quebec City overnight. So now we were sailing off the Gaspé Peninsula to Halifax, Nova Scotia. This 2-day sea passage to Halifax enabled us to enjoy the ship, meet the ship's officers, attend our hosted cocktail party aboard the Silver Shadow, also enjoy some of the onboard enrichment lectures that were offered, and so many other things. Upon arrival in Halifax, our shore excursion took us to the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia, where we saw exhibits by Maud Lewis. Then it was off to the public gardens of Halifax. And on this November day, it was a bit blustery and cold, but nevertheless, the sights of the season were fully evident.
Go inside.
Marla.
Hello.
How are you doing? Where are you at?
I'm at the Citadel here in Halifax. Just saw the cannon. There's the cannon.
The moon cannon.
Initially, it was the French, as well as the indigenous peoples who were already living within the province. And then from there, it was primarily American threat. So I'm not sure if anyone's visiting from the States, but you successfully invaded the Citadel. It's the only time we've ever been attacked then. The Citadel's actually never been attacked in every iteration of the fort, so.
Well, we're sorry.
And if you folks have any questions, feel free to ask.
She speaks for America. Is there a movie they said there was something about
There is a film. Unfortunately, it looks like the English showing is for some reason playing in French, and I don't have the ability.
Though it wasn't on our scheduled stops on this excursion, our industrious guide had allowed time for us to visit the Fairview Lawn Cemetery. Serene Cemetery is the final resting place of many of the victims of the April 1912 sinking of the Titanic. On this beautiful autumn day, we were very fortunate to be able to visit the Fairview Lawn Cemetery and see the final resting place of these victims of that tragic night of April 1912. Our guide was noteworthy in her attention to detail and sympathy for these victims.
Headstones are laid out. So this is the grave of Luigi Gatti. Luigi Gatti was the restaurateur aboard the Titanic. He both opened and closed his first restaurant on that ill-fated journey. But it was because of Mr. Gatti that all of you aboard the Silver Shadow are able to enjoy a la carte menu options. It was he who designed that system. So, first we see his name. Now, Luigi was readily identified because he was ship staff. So he had his name emblazoned on his uniform. You'll see that that is true for a large number of those that are in this row. And then yes, the headstones here do indeed all show the same date of death for very obvious reasons that you would be surprised how often I have to explain that reason. And then this 313 that we see here. So Mr. Gatti's body was the 313th brought out of the water and cataloged by the men aboard the Mackie Bennett and by the coroners here in the city of Halifax. Thank you.
The little 2-year-old boy. I was able to squeeze time when we went back to the ship to visit the Canadian Immigration Museum, which was there. I only had a half hour, but it was well worth the time and effort.
And Canadian and some British soldiers are buried here. You see that on the right-hand side. That is a military cemetery called Fort Massey. On the right-hand side, you'll see another cemetery. This one is called Holy Cross. And Holy Cross Cemetery is Catholic cemetery. And what's of real interest is the little church up on the hill. That little church was built in one day by the Irish in Halifax. Now, the Irish in Halifax in 1843 asked the English governor if they could have land for a church. The English governor didn't seem really enthusiastic about their idea, but eventually he agreed, all right, you can have the land for the church. And the Irish thought, we better build it quickly because he might change his mind. And so they did. They started at dawn one day in August of 1843 and finished it by sunset that night and had their first service. The church is called Our Lady of Sorrows. It is a National Historic Site. It's no longer used for regular services, but during the year, it's usually open a few times for special occasions. Sometimes in Halifax, we have a weekend that's called Open Doors, and all of the historic buildings are open to the public. We refer to it as the west end of Halifax, the western part of the city. Popular because it's close to the downtown. Oh, and by the way, there's an interesting carving on the right-hand side coming up. David knows where it is. He always slows down. Look on the right-hand side there. Carving on the front yard. Have a look to the right. There it is. The man who lives there is a master wood carver. And during the pandemic, like so many of us, he had a lot of time on his hands. And he continued his business, carving furniture and things like that. But he thought, he'd cheer people up. And so he built the pole and carved a lot of Canadian animals on the pole. And it's been there ever since. So very, very nice to have that. It is cheery just to look at it. Now, I mentioned Halifax Harbor wraps its way around the city. If you look on the left-hand side, this is salt water. It's part of the harbor. Lighthouses were definitely needed, particularly in older times when the navigational equipment on ships was not quite as up to date as it is now. Now, today, from 170 lighthouses, we're probably down to around 150 or so right now. There are no more lighthouse keepers. All the lighthouses are automated, and they're managed by computers, and the lights shine just the same, but like I said, there are no more lighthouse keepers.
On the bottom of the ocean is with the help of little fins under their tail called swimmerets or plutons. The way to tell the difference between the male and the female, or Lucy and Larry, is that the two that are closest to the body are different. And so for the male, they are hard and shell-like, and for the female, they are soft and feathery. Now I'm going to show you the difference here, and then I will just walk around so you can actually see them. And so for the female, soft and feathery, whether they have come from Maine and crossed the international boundary line and have dual citizenship, or we have ownership of those lobsters. So now, ladies and gentlemen, if anybody would like to hold Lucy or Larry, hand under, hand on top, we can put the lighthouse in the background, and he takes